In September 2003, a seemingly ordinary evening turned into the beginning of a dark and twisted mystery. 17-year-old Shafilea Ahmed disappeared without a trace from her family home in Warrington, Cheshire. Her parents insisted she had run away, just as she had before. But the real story, buried deep beneath lies and fear, was far darker. This is the tragic and horrifying story of Shafilea Ahmed, a case that shook the UK to its core, exposing a world of hidden abuse, cultural conflict, and ultimately murder. But before we unravel the chilling details, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more gripping true crime stories. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. It means a lot to us. Now let's dive into this dark and shocking case. Shafilea Ahmed was a bright and ambitious young woman, born to Pakistani immigrant parents, Iftikhar and Farzana Ahmed. Although their children were raised in the UK, her parents held very traditional values and expected their children to adhere to the same customs they followed. She lived a life torn between two worlds, one in which she was a typical British teenager, attending school, socializing with friends, and dreaming of becoming a lawyer, and another where she was bound by her family's strict cultural expectations. Shafilea's parents expected their daughter to follow a traditional path. For them, Shafilea's westernized lifestyle, her choice of clothes, her interactions with boys, her aspirations for independence were a source of deep concern. But for Shafilea, these were expressions of her freedom and individuality. Her struggle began long before her disappearance. Shafilea confided in friends, teachers, and even social services about the abuse she suffered at home. She was desperate to escape the control of her parents, yet she never fully revealed the depth of her fears. Shafilea's home life was riddled with tension. She faced constant pressure to conform to her family's cultural norms. Soon, talks of Shafilea's marriage started to buzz in the house. But Shafilea had other plans. She wanted to finish school and pursue a career as a lawyer, and didn't think her parents were serious about her marriage. In their twisted minds, they thought if they find someone traditional from Pakistan for her to marry, perhaps then Shafilea will change her ways. One summer, Shafilea's family planned a trip to Pakistan. By this time, Shafilea had begun to understand the true intentions behind the visit. Her parents had become increasingly insistent on arranging her marriage, and now it was clear to her that they were serious about finding her a husband in Pakistan. Fear and dread filled Shafilea as the thought of a forced marriage loomed over her. In a rare moment of vulnerability, she confided in her friends, expressing just how terrified she was of what awaited her. She didn't want this life, and the idea of being bound by tradition in a marriage she did not choose left her feeling trapped and powerless. The trip to Pakistan was supposed to be a one-way ticket into a life she didn't want. Desperate and cornered, Shafilea saw no way out but to take matters into her own hands. While in Pakistan, she drank bleach. She survived but sustained severe damage to her throat and esophagus. This incident was Shafilea's silent scream for help, a way of saying she could not and would not live the life her parents had planned for her. Despite this, upon her return to the UK, her parents brushed off the incident as an accident. They never acknowledged what truly happened, and the tension only grew worse. After returning to the UK, Shafilea's life became even more unbearable. She ran away from home multiple times, staying with friends and seeking refuge from the oppressive environment she lived in. Social services were called in, and school officials noticed the signs of abuse. But tragically, every time school or social services intervened, Shafilea either downplayed or simply refused their help, most probably out of fear of her parents. In one desperate moment, Shafilea wrote a haunting poem called Happy Families, where she expressed her feelings of isolation, oppression, and helplessness. The poem would later be used as evidence of the deep emotional turmoil she was in. Then arrived the fateful day of September 11th, 2003. That was the last time anyone saw Shafilea alive. Her parents told the authorities she had run away again, something she had done before. But this time, something was different. Friends reported her missing after she failed to show up to school. Weeks passed, then months, and there was no sign of Shafilea. The police launched a thorough investigation, interviewing her parents and siblings. But their story remained the same. Shafilea had run away. Yet there were cracks in their tale. The police found inconsistencies, and Shafilea's friends provided crucial insights into her troubled home life. They knew she wouldn't have run away without a plan. Something wasn't right. Shafilea Ahmed had been missing for months, but with no body, crime scene, or clear leads, her parents' claims that she had run away seemed to gain traction. Hope for finding answers began to fade, until nature revealed a hidden truth. Following heavy flooding, the River Kent in Sedgwick gave up its secret, uncovering skeletal remains along the bank after being submerged for 5 long months. The police quickly investigated and confirmed that the body was Shafilea's, using dental records along with the distinct pieces of jewelry found with the remains, a gold bracelet and ring, items that had once belonged to the bright young girl. As news spread of the discovery of Shafilea Ahmed's remains, the spotlight quickly turned to her parents, Iftikhar and Farzana Ahmed. People began raising suspicions about their involvement in her death, especially given the tension that had reportedly existed in their household. Despite growing rumors and whispers within the community, the Ahmeds vehemently denied all allegations. They made public appearances, including on television, where they professed their innocence, insisting that Shafilea had run away and met a tragic end at the hands of someone else. Their emotional pleas seemed to deflect the accusations, with many left uncertain about what had really happened.
Would we kill our own daughter? Or would you? Never. Couldn't even dream of it.
For the police, it was a frustrating situation. While they suspected that Shafilea's parents were involved in her death, they had no hard evidence to prove it. There were no direct witnesses to the crime, and despite the suspicions, the discovery of her body alone wasn't enough to connect the dots. Investigators were so convinced her parents had killed the teenager they even bugged the family home to listen in on their conversations, but even that revealed nothing. As a result, the investigation stalled. For the next 7 years, the case went cold, with no new leads or breakthroughs. The police could do little but wait for a confession or new evidence, while the Ahmeds continued to live their lives, maintaining their innocence as Shafilea's case lingered in the background, unsolved and haunting. But this case was about to take a shocking, unexpected twist that no one saw coming. In 2010, 7 years after Shafilea's murder, an unexpected event unfolded in the Ahmed household. Armed robbers broke into the home while Farzana Ahmed and the children were present, tying them up and looting the house for valuables, including cash and jewelry. The situation was terrifying, yet what emerged in the aftermath shocked the police more than the crime itself. Upon investigation, it was revealed that the mastermind behind the robbery was none other than Shafilea's younger sister, Alesha Ahmed. Yes, Alesha, with the help of accomplices, had orchestrated a robbery of her own family home. However, the real twist came during Alesha's interrogation. Realizing the severity of her situation, facing charges of armed robbery and assault, she made a startling decision. Desperate to mitigate her sentencing, Alesha decided to confess a dark secret that had been buried for years, one that had nothing to do with the robbery. Alesha broke down and revealed chilling details about how Shafilea had been murdered, directly implicating her parents. But even with her powerful testimony, there was skepticism. The defense could easily argue that Alesha was fabricating the story to save herself from a harsh sentence, casting doubt on the reliability of her confession. While detectives were still contemplating over Alesha's shocking testimony, a phone call came in that would change the course of the investigation. A woman named Shaheen contacted the police, and what she said took the investigators completely by surprise. She declared, "I can prove Alesha wasn't lying about her parents." But who was Shaheen, and how did she come to know about Shafilea's murder? More importantly, what evidence did she have that could validate Alesha's claims? To uncover the answers, we must travel back 4 years, to a time when Shaheen stumbled upon the key to solving this mystery. Mev was one of Shafilea's sister, and Shaheen was her friend since they were 7, growing up in the same neighborhood. Though with time they grew apart, but by the time they turned 17, they found each other again at college. The friendship rekindled, and soon Shaheen and Mev became inseparable. Yet, as close as they were, Shaheen noticed something troubling about her friend. Mev was constantly anxious, never allowed out on her own, and kept under strict control by her parents. Shaheen sensed something was deeply troubling Mev, and determined to help her friend, began gently probing. Months passed, and Shaheen's persistence finally paid off. Mev revealed a harrowing secret that had been eating away at her soul. It was so devastating she couldn't bring herself to speak the words aloud. Instead, she wrote it all down in 2 letters. When Shahin read those letters, her blood ran cold. The letters described the horrifying night Shafilea was murdered. One read, "That night, a violent argument broke out in our house. Mom and Dad were furious about Shafilea's defiance. The fight escalated, and then the unimaginable happened. Right in front of us, our parents suffocated Shafilea with a plastic bag. After a few agonizing moments, Shafilea stopped struggling. She was gone." Later in the letter, more haunting detail emerged. During the struggle, Shafilea wet herself. For weeks after, Mum kept scrubbing the sofa, trying to erase the stains. Mev also detailed how later that night, she and Alesha saw their father through an upstairs window, loading something heavy wrapped in bedsheets into the trunk of his car and driving away. You might ask why Shahin didn't go to the police with the letter. That is because Mev made her promise to keep everything in between them. Mev would say, "It's not going to bring Shafilea back, but we would certainly lose our parents." For years, Shahin struggled with her conscience. Somehow she found out about Alesha's arrest and confession. That is when she finally decided to call the police. Now the police were armed with not just 1, but 2 eyewitness stories collaborating with each other. The police arrested Iftikhar and Farzana Ahmed. The trial that followed shocked the nation. Friends, teachers and neighbors testified to the abuse Shafilea had endured. The Ahmeds maintained their innocence, insisting that the allegations were lies made up by their daughter. But the evidence was overwhelming. During the trial, Farzana Ahmed made a desperate attempt to shift all the blame onto her husband Iftikhar, portraying herself as a victim, stating that she was scared of her husband just like her daughters. She claimed she had no part in Shafilea's murder and even went as far as saying she tried to save her daughter. But her lies fell flat. The truth, unveiled through testimonies of her daughters, painted a much darker picture. It was Farzana who handed Iftikhar the plastic bag, coldly instructing him to finish it once and for all. Her attempt to escape justice only further solidified her role in the horror of that night. In August 2012, both parents were found guilty of Shafilea's murder. The judge condemned their actions as a gross breach of trust, sentencing them to life in prison. Shafilea's story is one of tragedy, but also one that highlights the devastating consequences of honor-based violence. Her case sent shockwaves across the UK, bringing attention to the hidden world of abuse faced by young women like her. Those caught between cultures and trapped in homes where family honor is placed above all else. In the years since her murder, Shafilea has become a symbol for the fight against forced marriages and honor killings. Her name is a reminder of the importance of speaking up for those who cannot speak for themselves. This is not just the story of a life lost, but of a young woman whose dreams were stolen from her by those who were supposed to protect her. A life of ambition, cut short by a culture of control. Her parents wanted to control her, and eventually took her life in the hope to protect their honor. In return, their faces were plaster all over the media, and now they are rotting in jail. Where is the honor in that? Rest in peace, Shafilea Ahmed. You will never be forgotten.